Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Being totally honest and transparent, while I have watched all the boxing over this weekend, I haven't watched all the boxing over this weekend. If I'm gonna be more transparent and very real, I was actually more interested and more excited to watch the Royal Rumble. So I was kind of flicking in between various different fights. I wasn't really paying attention to any. The only fight I actually went out on a limb specifically to score was the Gabriella versus Christina Cruz match. So I'll talk about that a little bit later on, as I'm not particularly happy at how that one ended. But with that being said, let's go over to the Matchroom card real briefly. It was in Belfast. I didn't have any I'm gonna be real, I didn't really have any interest in this card from when it was announced up to watching it. And that's not because it was necessarily a bad card, but apart from Chef Clark, there was no one on this card that I was really interested in. I guess the Conor Walker fight, I mean, the initial fight, there's supposed to be the rematch with Cyrus Pattinson, which was supposed to take place in Newcastle on the 10th of February, I think. That one I was more sort of interested in having a look at, but when obviously that fell through, yeah. Lewis Crocker, I've not really got much interest in. So yeah, I was only really watching it for Chef Clark and Tommy McCarthy, and even though I kind of knew how that fight was going to play out. But let's go through the card very briefly. Giorgio Violi beat Samuel Picaro on the before the bell segment of the card, and that fight in itself, or it might have been the very first fight of the night. It was one or the other, but that one really, another good performance by Giorgio Violi. I felt bad for Picaro, how the referee stopped the fight, but I agree that the stoppage was probably justified, warranted. Obviously, he took a sweeping left hook, went down, got up in the 8 count, but then stumbled into the corner. But as he turned back around and the referee had kind of waved it off, at that point, he had gained his composure, but it was that stumble, and it probably showed that he wasn't really ready to, fully compete again in the action. So I feel a bit bad for him because he protested vehemently that he was fine to go, he was okay, the referee stopped it too soon. And I understand where he's coming from. Like, if the referee had have let it carry on, number one, okay, yes, it was only going to go one way, but maybe you give him the opportunity to go through that. So I get it. But ultimately, yeah, I don't have any real complaints with that stoppage. Outside of that, he had Conor Walker against Lloyd Germaine. Now, funny enough, I thought that Lloyd Germaine would be, I know Conor Walker's a bit more of a, he's like a bit more of a pressure fighter, small, compact, sort of come forward, but I thought Germaine might be able to keep it long, keep the range behind the jab, sort of try and pick him apart from the outside, being sort of like the much taller and rangier of the two. And he had success in that very first round. It was pretty much as I thought it would go, and I thought he would have that type of control, because the people that he's lost to, obviously Samuel Antwi maybe not so much, but the other guy he lost to, which was who was the other guy that Conor Walker lost to? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now. He lost to Kane Gardner. Yeah, Kane Gardner was very much that kind, a rangy sort of loose type of opponent. So yeah, I thought Lloyd Germaine would have similar dimensions, but from round 2 and round 3, he really sort of he collapsed that pocket, stayed close to him, made Germaine have to work, and at that point, yeah, it just became a bit of a nightmare scenario for him. Got knocked down a couple of times. But the first 2 times he got knocked down, I felt bad for him because he actually got hit when he was on the ground both times, and the referee only warned Conor Walker on the second time, but then the third time when Germaine went down, the ref sort of jumped in and waved it off, so that's fine. But I feel like he should have warned him on the first time, because it was a blatant punch after he's on the canvas. And then the second time, maybe, if anything, really and truly should have been the point. But referee's choice, whatever, it didn't really make much difference to the bout. Like I said, it was going one way from the second round, so fair dues with that one. Paddy Donovan had a bit of a tear up with William Anders Herrera. Now, I expected him to win. I think I predicted that he would win this fight in the 7th round, so I don't think I was that far off. Actually, I think I got it spot on. I think on my prediction sheet I put 7th round KO, but he didn't have it all his way. Got his nose bloodied from about sort of the 4th round on. He had to sort of weather a storm rounds 4, 5 and 6, and but managed to pull it out the bag in the 7th. Good experience for him. He moves on. Maybe they won't be fast tracking him as much as they wanted to before, because I guess they felt that this wasn't the type of opponent that he's supposed to have, his acid test or have to find some things out about himself. So they might slow him down slightly, let him have another 1 or 2, especially before they look to have that fight with Lewis Crocker. But yeah, moving on to co-main, Chev Clark against Tommy McCarthy. I think I predicted this one would end in the 5th or the 6th round. Chev Clark didn't disappoint. Classic pressure fighter. He's got that really sort of that springboard jab that sort of just gets him into range so that he can get onto the chest, and then everything from there is just those little small sweeping body shots, those little small uppercuts up the middle. He is susceptible himself to the uppercut up the middle. By the way he dips his head down, he did get caught with one of those clean, I think, in the 2nd round, but he ate it, smiled, carried on walking forward. So clearly didn't bother him or affect him as much. And then it was just the pressure. McCarthy thought that he could sort of try and counter and then switch off of the ropes, but after a while Chev just wouldn't let him off of those ropes, and he just kept getting beaten down and worn down until eventually goes down in the 4th, then gets beaten down again, and then back down in the 4th round. And referee waves it off. Correct decision. It was one-way traffic, and it's I guess it's time to see where Tommy McCarthy goes moving forward. He probably might call it a day now, and if not call it a day, then he's probably just going to be that sort of gatekeeper or that high-level journeyman moving forward. But he had a good run. He got up to European Championship status, which is maybe an area that he thought he'd never achieve. So he's done quite well for himself in terms of his accolades within his career. So obviously he's got enough money saved up that if he does pack it in now, even if he has to go to a full 9 to 5 or something, maybe he can pick his hours and not have to just do a general manual labor or whatever. But whatever he does next, I'll be interested to see what sort of happens. Moving on to the main event, Lewis Crocker versus Jose Felix. Now, I had issues with this fight before the fight, as I said on Basis Picks. Jose Felix is a lightweight, 135 pounds, so he's moved up 2 weight divisions to 147 to face Lewis Crocker. And then Lewis Crocker has not only brought the guy up 2 weight divisions, he also didn't make weight. Now, I understand it wasn't his fault why he wasn't allowed to make weight, because he missed the BBBOC check weight earlier on in the week. But that being said, he still had a 3 pound weight advantage over his opponent, on top of the probably 15-20 pounds difference between the two of them in the first place, which you could clearly see in the ring. Now, in that sense, I can't say too much, because obviously Jose Felix, number one, agreed he didn't have to come in at the 147 pound limit, but he chose to do it because he wanted the opportunity to win the title. I think it was like a WBA Intercontinental title or something like that, which obviously will put him in pretty good rankings up there. But considering that that's not your weight class anyway, yeah, I wouldn't really have bothered. But that being said, because he's a 135-pound guy, I'm assuming for him to make that 147 wasn't actually a struggle. Hence why he said, yeah, I'll still come in on limit. But yeah, you had that. And to be fair, look, he was actually doing well. He, like, the punches maybe weren't having an effect, apart from one time, I think in the 4th round, where he caught Lewis Crocker with it was like a sweeping right hook, and it looked like it hit him on the chin. It looks like it actually wobbled and staggered him a little bit. Maybe not wobbled, but he definitely looked like he dropped his guard. He looked like it visibly hurt him. And Felix just wasn't able to capitalize on that particular moment. But everything other than that was just, yeah, there was just no effect to Lewis Crocker. Essentially, he was losing some of those earlier rounds, but then, you know, he ultimately just started walking him down, applying that big man pressure, and just started to beat him up. He knocked him down from a body shot in, I think it was the 4th, or it might have actually been the 5th. And then I almost thought that he hit him when he was actually on the ground, but when you look at the replay, he didn't. His knee hadn't actually touched the ground at that point, so the punch came before the knee landed, so it was still a legal shot, although they do say you're supposed to stop when the person's on their way down to begin with. But it is what it is. Then at the end of the end of the next exchange, they sort of got an exchange in the corner, and to be fair, like, Jose Felix has got a chin on him because he was taking some big shots in a salvo, but managed to sort of ride it out, and even tried to exchange with Lewis Crocker, and that exchange actually stopped Crocker from coming forward. So maybe something did land which said, okay, maybe let me not be reckless and try and go for the finish here. But he got it caught. It was a sweeping left hook off of a step where Felix has tried to sort of bounce out of range, and he's been caught with the shot, you know, as he's bouncing. So he's actually doubled the impact of it. He's dropped almost through the ropes, but he's managed to sort of compose himself. He even gets up. He gets up at the count of 8, turns around lucid. He wants to carry on, but at this point the referee waves it off. Now, I have an issue with that stoppage, quite frankly. Look, the guy, that was the second time being knocked down in the fight. I think the first time he got knocked down was the round before. But the second time, yeah, it looked like a heavy knockdown, but he got up, and he didn't get up wobbly. He didn't get up with this, you know, like beleaguered, like not another one. He got up on 8, on his feet, strong, sturdy, with his feet behind him, turned to the ref, said, "I'm good." And then the ref waves it off, and he argues with the ref, like, why? No, I'm fine. Like, let me carry on. And at that moment, I said to myself, even if you think, okay, this is only gonna go one way, he's cognizant, he's lucid, he's not wobbly, he's not in danger, he's showing that he can visibly still defend himself, and you've seen him be able to defend himself in the 4 or 5 rounds prior. Give him the opportunity. That's kind of all I got to say with regards to that. Yes, he may not have won the fight, and I understand that, but I feel like he still deserved the opportunity to carry on, because even though he had taken some heavy shots, he hadn't like taken a masterful beating over those 5 rounds. There's only 2 rounds in there really that he really took like some pretty damaging shots, and some of them he was managed to block. It's not like he was just taking them clean all night. So yeah, I have an issue with the way it was stopped, but you know, ultimately it was gonna end within the next round or 2 anyway. But then Lewis Crocker, all, you know, being happy and showboating and doing the Conor McGregor walk around the ring, to me just looked like clown behavior. Like, you fought a guy that was like almost 20 pounds lighter than you naturally, and you didn't even come in on weight, and you're really happy about this victory. That to me probably goes to show the type of level he's at. Realistically, he's got good activity on him, but you know, I would never be overjoyed beating up on someone that was that much smaller than me, unless they had proved to be like an elite level guy. you know, it's not like, oh, it's Tyson Fury beating Alexander Usyk. Okay, yeah, you can gloat on that victory because you can tell the skill gaps there. I mean, Felix has already had 5 losses at sort of the welterweight limit. So, you know, and then Crocker, think about it, in his last fight against Tyrone McKenna was a 140 pounder that he brought up to 147 for a fight. So yeah, I don't really like the way that he's moving in that sense. Him and his team or whatever is like, they seem to definitely be on the weight bully, beating up on smaller guys type thing. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that one there. I had no real interest in the card, and to be totally honest, it didn't interest me. I didn't think it was all that. So yeah, moving on. Next, let's talk about Jaime Munguia and John Ryder. Now, again, this card, I want to big up the fight that started the card. I think it was Alan Picaro Romero against Eric Ruiz. And this Ruiz guy apparently at the moment is technically homeless. His house, I think, got flooded, or something happened to the house, and so him and his kids have basically been just moving from motel to motel, trying to, you know, until they can find a new place to live. So that story itself, and they said, oh, this guy, like, he had like 8 losses, but he's never been stopped. Now, unless Picaro's got absolutely no power, which I don't think is the case, like, Eric Ruiz has got a chin and a half on him, because he took some hellacious shots clean. I'm when I say clean, I'm not talking about even riding and rolling the shots. I'm talking about like almost hands down, like flush. And he never wobbled. He never took a knee. Like he was just there the whole time. He also had some decent times where he was slipping, riding and rolling shots. But yeah, he took a pasting in the first half of that fight, and to the point where I think he then almost made Picasso punch himself out a little bit. Then he managed to catch Picasso with a body shot, which I don't think he realized that the shot, he hurt him. Like he hurt his ribs. But from there on, Picasso just started jabbing. He just started basically boxing and moving for like the next 5 rounds, and he even started to give up some ground. But yeah, that fight, I just thought to myself, geez, like, what's this guy's chin made of? They say he's never been stopped, and he's got that chin must have some titanium in it. It was crazy to watch. Really good fight if you haven't seen it. But then let's go to Gabriella Fondora versus Christina Cruz. Now, I saw Chris Mannix's scorecard. I was watching this live on, I was actually on a live with Ring IQ at the time, so I was scoring it for the fight, and I had it up until the time when the fight was stopped in the 10th, which I want to talk about in a moment. I had it would have been 7 rounds to 2. It was about to be 8 rounds to 2 to Gabriella Fondora. Now, Chris Mannix had it 4-0 Cruz for the first 4 rounds, which seemed crazy to me. I had it after the first 4 rounds, I had it 3-1 Fondora. Gave her the first round, gave Cruz the second, then gave Fondora the third and the fourth. Because even though obviously Cruz was landing a couple counter shots, there was some that weren't landing, some that were, but Fondora was controlling behind the jab, and occasionally whenever those backhands were coming in, hers were looking, and they were ending up more effective. So she was just a bit, not only was she busier, she was more accurate. Well, no, actually, no, that's a lie. I guess Christina was more accurate because she was throwing less, but yeah, she her jab was obviously having more of an effect, I would say, with Gabriella Fondora. But yeah, let's move on basically to the end of the fight. So I had Fondora up 3-1 after 4, then it was 3-2 after 5, and then from there I basically gave her everything from there. Christina started to tire, started to wear down, and I think in my previous video I said that she was about 33. That was incorrect. That's obviously Erica Cruz. She was actually 41, so there was a 20-year age gap between Gabriella and Christina. Now, the reason I want to talk about the actual finish of this fight was I felt it shouldn't have been stopped the way it was by the ref. Look, Christina did have her back turned to her opponent, but I think it was a bad stoppage. And the reason I think the stoppage was bad was because if you look, obviously, the exchange that sort of happens and that causes it, Christina, she obviously goes to throw her lead hand against Gabriella's. Gabriella's a southpaw. She's orthodox. She actually trips over Gabriella's foot, so it ends up in front of her. And then at that moment, because she's basically side on, she does the first thing that you're kind of need to do at that moment. Gabriella's then sort of come round the back of her, so she's ducked down and she's blocking and defending herself from, you know, with her back turned but in a downward stance. And then Gabriella at this point, she's hitting her. She's not at the side of her now hitting her. She's behind her, hitting her to the ribs and trying to hit her to the head. Now, at that moment, to me, the referee should be breaking the action and then making Christina turn around. Or Gabriella should not be hitting her from behind. She should be now moving round the side of her to hit her from the side or to get back in front of her. And I don't think, if it was orthodox v orthodox, I don't think that situation would have taken place. It was literally because Christina has tripped over her foot, has ended up in front of her, and then the natural reaction is to protect yourself from shots that you can't see. And then she's moved, obviously she's then got her hands up behind her back, has moved forward towards the ropes, in looking like she's about to turn around. But obviously, again, I'm assuming she at this point is waiting for the ref to break the action, says turn around and let's carry on. But the ref waves it off. Now, yeah, she was taking some shots beforehand. I'm not going to discount that. That was true. But to me, in that moment, I feel as if it was wrong to stop the fight. She wasn't in any danger of getting knocked out or, you know, badly hurt at that moment. It was the last round, and she didn't turn her back of her own volition. She basically fell into the turn. And that's the issue that I have, that the ref didn't, you know, break the action and say stop, turn around, and because that's normally what a referee will do. It's only obviously if you keep a sustained, you turn your back on several different occasions, they will normally stop it. Or sometimes if you turn your back, they might break the action and then give you a standing 8 count to say, okay, well, you know, you were in no state to so standing 8. But yeah, I just thought the stoppage itself was bad, and obviously it robbed Christina of the opportunity to go the distance, which at that point it looked like she was going to. Not only that, I mean, if she wanted to get back out next week or like next month or whatever, I guess now she's going to be on a technical medical suspension for a few months. So I don't really know what's left for her if she's going to carry on. I'm not sure. I know there's a few other people, some people that I'm close to in the YouTube community that are that were a lot more upset about the fight than I was, who are obviously, they know her and are heavily invested in her. I didn't see it even from that perspective. I just thought the stoppage itself was a bit bad, in my opinion. And I definitely think, even though she was taking punishment, I don't think that she should have, the ref should have stopped it the way he did. But neither here nor there. Oscar Collazo fight, I didn't really see. I kind of fell asleep for that one, but I know that he won 3rd round KO, so I will check that one back. Moving to the main event, Jaime Munguia versus John Ryder. I thought that Jaime Munguia would win this on a points decision, but I thought it would be a case where it might be like a 7 rounds to 5, 8 rounds to 4, but he would get it like 118, 110, 117, 111 on the cards. That wasn't the case. The link up with Freddie Roach looks like it's doing well. I mean, his game, his punch selection, his timing, his punch picking, everything in this fight was just miles better than it's been for a long time. John Ryder obviously he was a much bigger guy. When I did my predictions video, obviously I done it before they had their weigh-ins, so I didn't really see what he was looking like, and he wasn't looking as sort of shredded or as conditioned as he usually does. He looked a bit puffy, looked a bit bloated, and that kind of told in the ring a bit. And yeah, had I have seen what condition he came in initially, maybe my prediction might have been stoppage. You know, he's still tough, still game, and look, he got knocked down 3 times, but he got back up each time. But I think it was just on that very last time, I think the corner threw the towel in as he was getting up, and yeah, they just said, look, we've seen enough. And I guess obviously this isn't the same as the Canelo fight where, you know, that's a world title fight and maybe a lucky punch can turn the tide, or you prove that you can go the distance with the best in the world. Whereas this one is Jaime Munguia, you know, a guy much fresher than you, 27 years old. You know, maybe not the naturally bigger guy, but he's just picking you off. You don't have the endurance, the stamina, whatever it is. You just don't have anything to really keep him at bay. He's just, you know, dominating round after round. Let's not go and have another 12-round beating like last time. Plus, you've gone down 3 times, whereas the last fight, you had the broken nose, but you only went down officially once. So, look, it was... I need to watch the whole fight again properly. Not to score for round by round, but just to give proper technical analysis for Tuesday. But from what I saw, like, Jaime Munguia looked a lot more polished and a lot better than he's looked previously. So that link up, as I said, with Freddie Roach looks like it's doing and paying dividends. So I'll be keen to see what his next move is. If it ends up being the Canelo fight in May, that fight might be a little more interesting now than I would have thought it would have been before. But yeah, it was good work overall. That was a fun fight. That was definitely the better of the 2 cards. You guys would have seen the video I put out before the events, talking about some of the cards that are coming up for sort of the zone as of late, which I'm not too enthused about. But yeah, I'll leave it there. It's probably gone a lot longer than I wanted it to go in the first place. Apologies. Anyone who hasn't, go on to Fight Fan TV Live. They've got a Neutral Corner, a new Neutral Corner episode out there. Apparently, I'm mentioned in it. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to check it on my way to the gym in a little bit. Outside of that, make sure you guys stay locked to October Red. Make sure you stay locked to Maestro, Undefeated Podcasts, Ring IQ Boxing News, Boxing Beats and Rhymes, G-Man Boxing, Adeola Depot, all the regular stuff that's in my list. And I will have some more content for you coming during this week. Don't forget to tune into the breakdown on Tuesday, where we'll be going through all of this stuff on the Undefeated Podcast channel. I might also be doing a live next week, Thursday. Haven't confirmed it yet, but if I do, you guys will be the first to know. So with that being said, thanks for watching. I will catch you lot next time. Hope next week is better than this weekend was, but we'll find out. Until then, like, subscribe, and share. Catch you soon. Peace.